What's up, everybody? Welcome to the House of Mario, the award-winning Nintendo podcast on the 8-Bit Collective, and the doors to episode 81 are open. I'm your host, Drew Agnew, and joining me today is Leon Haydon. How you going, dude?
Not bad, yourself?
Very good. So you're a local game developer in our hometown, self-employed from Angry Dwarf Studio.
Yep.
So just tell us a bit about who you are and what do you do?
Well, as you just said, I'm self-employed.
Yep.
Under Angry Dwarf Studio. Basically sort of started that out as a hobby. Back then we were known as Smash Grind Studio because that was my gamer handle at the time.
Yep.
Started looking at the potential of commercial development in about 2016, so we thought we'd have a bit of a change of name because didn't really like the old one. Had a bit of a talk to a friend of mine who you probably know, Riley Huppets, about study options and stuff as well.
He's actually been on the podcast before, Riley.
Yeah. So spoke to him early in 2016, and he sort of put me onto AIE, and I sort of started studying with them mid 2016.
Oh, right.
Via the online campus.
So this is sort of recent. You've gotten into the sort of the game side of it?
I've been doing it on and off for well over a decade now, but as I said, it was previously just a hobby thing.
Yep.
I figured I'd need to go through the study to get some credentials and just to help get my foot through the door and network and stuff like that.
Yep.
But
yeah. I got you on the show because a mutual friend of ours sort of said, you know, you applied for Nintendo and you got pretty far in the sort of process of it. But before we get to all that, I just want to talk about Nintendo games, you know, sort of what got you into gaming and sort of what you grew up on and what you've enjoyed over the years. So what was your first console or first game you sort of got into?
My first console, to be honest, was the Commodore 64. Mm-hmm. But my first memorable console that I can actually remember would be the Nintendo Entertainment System.
Yep, awesome. Yep.
Grew up playing Mario and Legend of Zelda and stuff like that.
How old were you when you got that one, if you could remember, if it was
before school? So
yeah,
4, 5, something like that.
Because I always hear about the launch of the NES in America, how they just did it at New York City and sort of. You never hear about it in Australia. I don't know, when did it actually come out in Australia? I actually don't know.
I'm not actually sure. Before I was born.
Yeah. Because they're also the hardest one. You can find Super Nintendos and that everywhere, but it's really hard to find NES.
Yeah. I've got a mate that's got a cupboard full of them.
Yeah? That's awesome. Because that's the only system I'm missing.
Yeah.
I've collected them all. I sort of need a GameCube with a box, but that's about it. I
think the GameCube's the only one that I don't have personally.
Mine's a beat up one.
Yep.
Yeah. Just what someone gave me, but yeah, it's better than nothing. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, so what were some of the games you got on the Nintendo Entertainment System?
Well, as I said, we had Mario, Super Mario Brothers, Legend of Zelda, which was my favourite at the time, still is.
Especially back then, my God, that would have been mind-blowing. Yeah.
That was great back then, just exploring and doing all the stuff. Those are probably the main two that I can remember. There was a bunch of other third-party titles as well that didn't quite have the same impact on me, but no.
Yeah, did you have the accessories, the light gun and the rob and all of those things?
We had the old light gun with Duck Hunt.
Yeah,
it had the dual Duck Hunt Super Mario Brothers cartridge. So
yep, nice.
Have fun shooting ducks now and then.
Yeah. Yeah, I never got to play around with those accessories, but they look a bit antiquated now, but they would have been fun enough back then.
Oh yeah, it was pretty fun. The light gun itself was fairly solid and sturdy. Very good for a child. Yeah.
On the Wii, they brought out Duck Hunt with the Wiimote.
Yep.
Yeah, so I played it there.
Yep. I can't say. Well, I did enjoy the Wii, but I wasn't a huge fan of motion controls, so I kind of let that slip by me a bit.
Yeah. No, fair enough. I think a lot of sort of more hardcore gamers sort of let that slip. The Wii was actually my first console.
Yep.
I just played at friends' places and all that before then, and it was like the end of primary school. It was pretty late, and I'm like, I remember researching and had this little folder with all this rumors and that I printed out. I had there was rumors going around because it was just called Nintendo Revolution.
Yep.
And there's rumors going around that it's going to be like a virtual reality headset.
Yep.
And there's photoshops of that. It looked ridiculous, and it turned out just to be like a flick of the wrist to do Link's sword. And so did you go on to sort of have every Nintendo console since then, or did you drop out for a bit? Or
no, after that we ended up with the Super Nintendo. Kind of followed suit there with all the Marios and Legend of Zelda, and it was probably one of my most memorable consoles at the time. Moving on from there, went to the Nintendo 64, had a bit of a break, went PS1, PS2, skipped over GameCube.
Yeah, so you got into your PlayStation a fair bit then.
Yeah.
A lot of people seem to. A lot of my friends that had the Nintendo 64 when they had the PS2, it just seemed like the next step. And when you're not thinking about brands and all this stuff, it just seemed like the logical next step for a lot of people, especially since it played DVDs and did a lot more things.
I think that's probably why I skipped over the GameCube. I can't think of any other reason why I did.
Well, like you can't really blame people because it was a more appealing console at the time.
Which is kind of funny because a lot of some of the games that I like now were on the GameCube.
Yeah, definitely.
Like Luigi's Mansion.
Had a great library,
and Wind Waker, and I just sort of missed over them until later on in life.
So then you went on to Wii, and you obviously just sort of dabbled in some things like Mario Galaxy and things like that. Did you?
Yeah.
Did you play some of those?
Got Mario Galaxy, got Twilight Princess, did Donkey Kong Country Returns when that came along. But for the most part, I missed out on a lot on the Wii because I was just not a fan of motion controls. I still not really, but put up with them when you have to.
Yeah, it's fair enough. Thinking back on it, I wouldn't want to go and play a lot of those games just with the controls. Like Skyward Sword, that was a pretty decent game. But going back and doing the full motion for a 30-hour game might be a bit draining.
Well, I'm still hopeful for a HD remaster of that on the Switch, but we'll see.
It'll be interesting because they've got to find a way to put the controls in. It's either
they have the available controls for it.
Yeah,
the Joy-Cons. They're just
But then it's weird in handheld mode, and I guess you just say, well, no handheld mode. Yeah. Did you play Skyward Sword?
I did. I didn't get to finish it because it was towards the end of my Wii days. By then I'd kind of moved on to like the PS3 and stuff like that.
Because that was 2011, and 2011 was when the PS3 really exploded. Got Uncharted 2, and it really picked up steam. That's when I got my PS3 the next year, but I had my Xbox 360 already. And going back to going to Skyward Sword and seeing the seeing it at 480p was a bit hard to digest. But really enjoyed it, but it was pretty repetitive. Yeah. And what about the Wii U?
Wii U? I loved that console.
You do?
I did.
Oh, excellent. Yeah.
A lot of people hate on it, but I loved that console.
It's easy to hate on, but it had a great library. Yeah.
It had plenty of great games, and that's what did it for me, really. It's
What are some of your favourites on that system?
Well, the obvious two would be Wind Waker HD and Twilight Princess HD because
Zelda games.
Well, Zelda's basically my staple series. But I got pretty well every first-party Nintendo game that they'd released for that, and for the most part, they're all fun. I didn't really enjoy the StarFox one. StarFox Zero or whatever.
Yeah, I never bothered.
So it was fun for the novelty of having a StarFox game, but it could have been a lot better.
Yeah, that was pretty disappointing because when they announced it at E3 with all the Muppets and that, it was really exciting. StarFox is back. Then you sort of seeing because I was watching IGN's live stream at the time, and they were showing the GameCube version, Star Fox Assault, just just speculating what the new game's going to be announced, and they were showing footage of that between them talking. Then the direct started, and the footage of Star Fox Zero came up, and it looked pretty similar. I'm like, ooh, that should not be able to compare this to a GameCube game in 2016. But I especially the Zelda games using the gamepad, that was really great. You're sailing in Wind Waker, and you see an enemy ahead of you, and you're like, all right, I need this weapon, and you just put it rather than having to pause it. Save a lot of time. Yeah,
and I enjoyed the fact that you'd have the maps down on the screen in front of you, and it sort of cleared up a lot of clutter on the main play space. Yeah,
at launch I got Black Ops 2, and you're playing on the TV and you're looking down at the map. Probably in hindsight, that's not such a good idea in a real fast shooter. It's cool at the time,
Yeah, it can be distracting at times if you're playing the wrong game, but
Yeah. And you said earlier you're enjoying the Switch.
Yeah. I love it.
Yeah. So if you like the Wii U, you should probably love the Switch.
Yeah. Overall, I think the Switch is a much greater console. I kind of miss having those Zelda maps in my hand, but it's something you get over.
I sort of got used to it too with like the DS and that as well.
Yeah.
What are some of your games on? Oh, I assume Breath of the Wild's probably your favourite game on there.
That was my very first game on there.
Yeah.
So again, I've picked up just about every first-party Nintendo game on the Switch.
Mm-hmm.
It's just what I do. That's me, and it's great for the kids as well.
It was an expensive year in 2017. I tell you that much.
Oh yeah.
I spent about $1,000 at launch on the Switch. I got like this special edition Zelda. Got the Switch. I'm like, bugger! I'm getting every game I want. I bought 1-2 Switch for $80.
Okay.
Why not? Yeah, but I quite enjoyed that. Did you ever play 1-2 Switch?
No, not personally.
No.
I've obviously seen it, but it just. Yeah.
Well, I was actually talking about it last week with Eric, who was on, and he said he really enjoyed it too. It was really fun just to sort of show off the Switch.
Yep.
It really should have been bundled in with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I reckon
if it was bundled, I probably would have played it.
Yeah.
I'm not spending $60.
No, definitely not. It shouldn't
be. Novelty.
It's kind of like if you go to Target and you just pick up like a $20 board game to entertain the kids for like the night or something.
Yeah.
$80 is a bit of much of a stretch for that.
Yeah, just a bit.
So that sort of, I guess, covers sort of your trek up Nintendo.
Mm-hmm.
You sort of missed the GameCube and a little bit, but
yep.
Yeah, I missed the GameCube too. I've told this story on the podcast before, but I wanted the GameCube, and I said to Mum, I want a GameCube for Christmas. She's like, okay, yeah, I don't know what a GameCube is, but she went into the shop, asked about the GameCube, and the guy, it was Mount Gambier, was it Game Traders at the time?
At the time, yeah.
And the guy said, nah, GameCube's a shit, get a PlayStation. So Mum come back and said, get a... the guy said they're shit, so do you want a PlayStation? I'm like, oh, well, no, not really. My friends all got one, so I'll just play it there.
Yep.
That was it. that was the end of the story.
Store folk like that shouldn't push their opinions on their customers. If they're buying stock, they're buying stock.
Yeah. It wasn't until I grew up I'm like, wait a minute, that's just some Sony fanboy just saying no to a Nintendo console. So all right. But at the time it's like,
you missed out on some childhood there, but
yeah, that's just fun. Yeah, because that's a bit rough if someone's like, I want an Xbox. Like, no, get a PlayStation because they're better.
Yep. Then
the mum comes home with the PlayStation. The guy's like, all I wanted was to play Forza and Halo. That's all I wanted.
Yep.
It's kind of the same thing. All right, we'll sort of touch on sort of your start of game development. We sort of touched on it at the start of the episode.
Yep.
But how did you get into it? So from loving games, how did you sort of move into doing it as a hobby?
So I'll take the story way back.
Yep, please do.
With the NES and Super Nintendo consoles, I used to love Zelda. Well, I still do love it, but yeah, it was my favourite game, especially A Link to the Past on the Super Nintendo. And I used to just sit at home as a child drawing up maps of dungeons and worlds and puzzles and stuff.
That's awesome.
As if I was creating the next Zelda game, and I thought it was cool at the time. Other than that, I sort of grew up playing tabletop games as well, so I ended up getting a lot of my toys and creating their own rules and making tabletop games and stuff out of them, so sort of got that into it as well. Sort of towards the end of primary school years and into high school, I discovered RPG Maker, which is not sure if you've heard of it or not. You have? Cool.
It's actually come out on consoles.
Yeah.
Was it last year or the year before? Yeah.
So that was around the turn of the millennium, 2000-ish. Sort of got into making the old Final Fantasy style games, and that sort of kept my interest up a bit. And I used to have a mate that I used to visit because I'd never had a PC at home, so
go borrow his.
Go visit him, borrow his, and I used to not even play his games. I just jump on the level editors and stuff and just build all these levels, stuff playing the games.
Yeah.
all the fun was in making the levels. But so I tried to carry that on through high school. It was a bit hard at the time because no one wanted a bar of it. It's like,
well, back then everyone was like, video games, waste of time.
It was a new phenomenon, really, and it was a waste of my time, and don't do that.
It's only been like the last 5 years where video games have sort of changed their perspective. Yeah.
So there was that. So I struggled through high school trying to do that, and then I didn't really have any opportunities outside of high school to further my education as far as that's concerned. So I just sort of did a lot of learning off my own back. Sort of picked up learning 3D art using Blender. I ended up going through TAFE and doing a multimedia course just to do some graphic design stuff to help learn some of that. But yeah, in the end, that's not what I wanted to do, obviously. So,
I guess it all sort of helps, though, does it?
Oh, yeah, the skills helped. Going through that course helped me improve my 3D art skills and stuff like that. Yeah, I've just sort of been on and off trying to work out how to do it for forever, really.
Yeah, just sort of like in your free time, just grab whatever program, whatever hardware you can, and sort of try and make it work. Yeah.
Come 2010, I was contacted by a mate of mine that I used to go to school with, and him and his brother had gone through uni doing computer sciences, so they're all programming and stuff, and they wanted to make their own game, and they go like, "You're an artist, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I guess." I guess you can call me that, sort of. Help us make this game. I was like, all right, I'll give it a shot. And that's sort of where the current stuff kicked off. So yeah, started making stuff with them, just sort of as a bit of fun hobby on the side, because they were working wherever they were working, and I was working wherever I was working. So we did a bunch of small projects under the guise of Smash Grind Studios, because that was my gamer tag at the time. And
how many people under in Smash Grind Studios? Was it you, your mate, and a few others, or
just the three of us?
The three of us, yep.
So 2 programmers and me, which is whatever I was at the time.
Jack of all trades, learner.
Yeah.
Whatever, yeah.
Whatever didn't require coding, because I was shocking at coding. I still am, really, but I'm getting there. So yeah, we did a bunch of small projects, nothing hugely great, just to get some experience and have a bit of fun. Come 2016, we decided to have a shot at doing it commercially. So I say 2016, but it was technically the year before that. But so we sort of started having a look at something that we'd really like to make and push forward, and just get a solid idea of what we were going to do. So we started on a project. It started out as a Zelda clone, funnily enough.
Yep.
We started because we didn't have any real artists, so we ended up going for a pixel art approach. Started out with a 16-bit aesthetics, sort of SNES era type. One of us sort of looked to the original Zelda game, had a look at some of the character sprites for that, and just sort of tried to recreate them in our own style.
Yep.
Which is, funnily enough, where our current name Angry Dwarf Studio came from. One of us sort of went to the old the merchant guy that you'd find in some of the caves.
Oh yeah,
the big burly guy with the beard, and went to recreate him in our style, and it just looked remarkably like an angry dwarf. so that kind of stuck from then on out.
Yep.
But yeah, we had a bit of trouble pushing that forward, because we ended up way out of scope, as you do when you're inexperienced and whatever.
Sort of keep like feature creep, like you just keep
feature creep and world size and stuff. Our world map that we'd made was 52 times bigger than the original Legend of Zelda map.
Jesus. That's not a small game either.
No.
Wow. You could have done like maybe half a map on the side of that.
Basically what we'd done was we'd drawn a map of this continent, and going with the idea of the screen-by-screen basis of the original Zelda game, we'd just sort of cut it up into screens. It's like, oh, that's a lot.
Yeah. Like, I really love the Zelda clones that make it like smaller. I forgot Blossom Tales on the Switch. Did you play that?
Yes.
That's excellent, that game.
It is. It's great.
Yeah. I actually had the developers on that game, episode 50, and talked to them, and that was really interesting. Like, that was a game I just fell in love with. I couldn't put it down.
Yep.
And when people make these sort of, I guess, Zelda clones and sort of down the scope, so it might only take 10 hours, 13 hours to beat, I really enjoy that. Yeah.
Yeah, ours was definitely not going to be that small. That was a mistake on our behalf, but we realised that we were making that mistake, so we sort of buckled down and scoped it right down. It's still what we ended up with was still fairly large in scope, but not as large as it could have been.
It's all a part of the learning process. I dare say,
Yeah, if I had to to put it into perspective, I would have said that our game would have been a 2D Breath of the Wild pretty much. It was just huge.
That open. Yeah.
So yeah, we sort of scoped it down a bit. We had a bit of trouble with the art, so we ended up scoping that down further into a more of an 8-bit aesthetic.
Mm-hmm.
I can probably show you some later on or whatever. But
yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah.
So we scoped that down, got the 8-bit art happening. So we started making big progress on that after that. The biggest problem we had, well, I had personally as being prime level designer, was coming up with the dungeons and the items and how all the puzzles and items would interact and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we sort of started the 8-bit version in 2016. I think it was March 2016, which is when we put up our Facebook page as well, which I have not touched in a couple of years due to study. But it happens, life gets in the way.
I did notice that because I had a look on Facebook.
Yeah. Feel free to like it. I'll update it eventually.
Yeah, I liked it. Yeah. It'll be in the show notes too, so anyone can go and check it out.
I will update it eventually. It's just I've been so busy the last couple of years with this study. I just had to drop a bunch of stuff. As I said, started that in March 2016. Then I ended up having a talk to Riley Huppets about study and stuff, and I ended up studying with AIE online in August 2016.
Mm-hmm.
So I had 5-6 months of development before starting study, and then I just sort of buckled down there for a bit. I kept trying to add on to our project at the same time as studying. So
we doing that online, or did you go up to Adelaide for that?
The study was online, attending an online campus. Just use Adobe Connect to attend virtual classrooms with all the other students and lecturers and whatnot.
Yeah, thank God for that, because down here we got nothing.
If it wasn't available, I wouldn't have done it. I would have still been struggling doing what I was doing. Yeah,
because a lot of those guys, like the friends of mine, they're doing IT and whatever. They've had to go up to the city.
Yeah,
because there's not much down here.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a farmer, I'm alright.
Yep.
But there's not much.
If I'd had the opportunity when I'd left school, I would have moved away. If I'd had the opportunity to go study on campus when I started at AIE in 2016, I would have. But I've got a family now, so that makes moving hard. So
I assume your missus and the kids are happy.
Yeah,
and all that.
Kids are established in school with their stuff, and wife's established with her work, and we've all got our establishments here. It's just hard to rip up 4 people and
definitely
move away just for some study.
Yeah, because a lot of the major studios, they're all doing a lot of it online as well. So
well, I've done a little bit of work for other people in the past online. Love the internet. It's made a lot of things a lot easier.
Thank God for the NBN as well.
Yeah.
It was so slow before that. It was a waste of time, almost.
Well, ADSL wasn't too bad. It's all we knew at the time, but moving up to NBN, looking back on ADSL, it was shocking.
Yeah, because I moved into this house about this time last year, and that's when the NBN kicked in for this street, and we got plugged in. It was amazing, because back home on the farm, what did we get? Like, the speed wasn't too bad. It was a 3G wireless, but we only got 8 gig. So no YouTube, no nothing. Don't do anything. Maybe check your emails a little, like, every day or whatever you need to do, but don't you dare watch a video, or God forbid download a game, update your games.
Suck to be you.
my PlayStation was just offline.
Yep.
And The Witcher 3 wanted an update, 20 gig update.
Yep.
It wanted to download the DLC even if you haven't bought it.
Yep.
But it's like, no. If you want the like the benefits, like to the menu system and all of that, you need to download 20 gig of everything else too.
Yep.
So I never touched it again, and it was annoing.
I was much the same when I first got my PS3 in 2006. I was still on dial-up back then. So if I wanted to update anything, I'd have to go to my mate's house who was on broadband.
Well, I guess that when the Xbox 360 came out in 2005, it didn't even have wireless, did it?
No, I don't think so.
No, you had to buy the adapter for it.
Yeah, you had to buy the plug.
Those are different times back then.
Dial-up was some trying times.
So when you were studying, did you keep on developing games with this group, or did you sort of put it on hold? Or
we kept trying to develop our game that we were developing, but I ended up quite time constrained due to the study, because I was doing that full time and just putting my all into it, because I could.
Yeah.
It's like, may as well put effort into it if you're going to do some.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Some
And you're passionate
learning.
about it too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, despite not doing much on our personal project, I'd done a lot on projects for the study, worked on various bits and pieces of games, did some game jams and stuff like that. Recently finished our major production for my study and just sort of finishing up now. I've finished that in end of next month.
Oh, congrats. Yeah. Nice.
If I stick to it, it's only a month away.
You may as well at this point, eh?
Yeah. So made it this far. Been doing it for 2 or so years. So
yeah, don't waste all your time and money.
Yeah, it's a lot of money to waste. So
yeah, I'd imagine.
So yeah, we've sort of picked up back where we left off as well, but we sort of put that project on hold because it was still fairly scoped out for what we'd intended on doing. So we're working on another project very slowly at the moment, which I'll probably update on our Facebook page at some point when we've actually got something to show. That's half the problem with running a Facebook page, is having something that you can actually show.
Yeah,
it's like we do lots of work, but it's all behind the scenes work, all the code and stuff. It's like, I'm not going to bother showing people on Facebook with the code.
I'm sure. Well, maybe not the actual code, 'cause someone might copy it. But a lot of people are interested in that sort of behind the scenes stuff, especially with indie games where it's like a small team and it's a bit more personal rather than just like Ubisoft Montreal or
Well, if you look at our Facebook page and scroll down through the history, you'll see some behind the scenes stuff. Like I've shown the process of developing a sprite and
so that's cool.
Some of the other artwork and stuff.
So
we've got some stuff like that. I think I uploaded a YouTube video showing a little bit of a walk simulation through a world map and stuff like that as well. But I'm not going to show the coding side of things, but if I've got something interesting to show, I'll show it.
So here, take our code, copy our code.
Yeah, it's a bit like that.
Yeah, and
over the years, I've been writing short stories and stuff as well, which I may eventually put up just for a bit of fun or whatever.
Yep. Cool. We'll talk a bit more about that game after this topic.
Yep.
But sort of your application for Nintendo, what made you say, all right, I want to sort of apply for Nintendo? Because say, like, if you got the job, that would have been a huge move for you to have, maybe, I don't know whether you would have stayed here and did it online. Or
nah, it required a move over to Kyoto in Japan.
Yep.
At Nintendo headquarters. So
wow, yeah.
It would have been a big move.
So that would have been a big move. So what made you say, all right, I'll apply for the job? And sorry, and what position was it for? Even?
So working for Nintendo has been a lifelong dream of mine. So but when I saw the job going, it's like, yeah, I'll go for it.
Yeah.
The position itself, I guess I can talk about because it was made public last year, was a level design role for the next Legend of Zelda game.
Yep.
So
I actually remember when that sort of that news story came out. They were looking for and is that how you saw it?
Yeah, that's how I saw it. And it's like,
nice.
I probably won't get it, but I may as well apply for it. So I applied for it. It's like, my Japanese isn't great, but I can do a little bit. But yeah, I figured, why not? Worst that can happen is I won't get the job. So I went for it. I didn't have much of a portfolio at the time, so I did a lot of winging it.
Yep.
So
what were they? If you can answer, if you can't answer any of these questions I asked, just tell me. We'll move on. But what were they looking for? Like, they looking for a lot of experience, or they looking for, you've had a bit of experience, we'll teach you? Or?
So from what I saw on the actual job post was that they were looking for people much like myself who don't have a lot of experience but have at least entry-level experience, which is one of the main reasons I applied for it as well. It's because it fit right in with where I was at the point in time. And just sort of sent in my application, gave a little bit of a rundown of what I've done and what I can do. It kind of helps that I've developed Zelda-style games in the past.
Yeah, show them all your maps you've done as a kid, and
maybe not quite that far back, but stuff that I've done in the recent past.
Yeah. So, was it just like as easy as sending off an email with your resume and just like applying for a normal job, essentially, or?
Yeah, it was just a matter of sending off an email with my resume written in English. And a bit of a a little bit of a, I guess you could call it a portfolio. It wasn't really a portfolio. I just sort of sent them a slideshow with stuff that I've done in the past and stuff like that.
And they got back to you like just via email, and is that how it worked? Or
yeah, they got back to me via email. It was an email that I couldn't read, so I had to rely on Google Translate to
just back in Japanese
to sort of help out with that. Got back to me on that and sort of asked if I was available for an interview. I told them that I wouldn't be able to fly over to Japan to attend any interviews, so I just sort of was like, is it alright if we do a video conference or something? And it's like, sure, why not? And sort of hit it off from there.
Yep. Oh, cool.
Video conferences were kind of fun because trying to talk to someone in Japanese, it's like my Japanese isn't great. I've got the basics, but required an interpreter. But
yeah. So you had a translator and interpreter there, and sort of like you say something, they say it, and it's like a big wait back and forth.
Yep.
And how many interviews did you do until you eventually didn't get it?
Went through 4 rounds of interviews.
4 rounds, yep. Wow.
And in the end, it was just probably my lack of language, because they were looking for someone that was more fluent in Japanese just to make working over there easier.
Yeah. Like I would imagine it would be like, I know konnichiwa and like, just like 2 words.
Well,
that's about it.
Myself and my son do karate at the local club, so I know a lot of Japanese words for hurting you, but
so if someone annoys you, you know how to say, I'm going to punch you in the face.
but yeah, just general chit chat I'm not so good at.
No, that's really cool. I was thinking, like, back before you said how much experience Nintendo are looking for. Obviously they're one of the biggest companies in the world, and whether they're looking to like bring you in and teach you, or whether they're just like looking for the best. I guess there's different positions where they're looking for different qualifications.
As I said, as far as the application made me aware, it was basically an entry-level position, which would have implied there would have been some on-the-job training, which I wouldn't have turned back. Especially learning all of their tools and software and stuff, because looking at it from my perspective, I probably wouldn't have made much sense of it, because it would have all been in Japanese, most likely. Excuse me.
Yeah, I could imagine trying to learn software in a language you don't understand. It's hard enough as it is.
Yeah. I can read some kanji and stuff, but not enough to get by.
Yeah,
at least not on my own.
Yeah, like I feel like asking some of these questions. I feel a little bit bad. Like, how did you feel when like you eventually like didn't get it? Were you?
As is always, when you get turned down for a job that you really want, you do feel a little bit bad. But as I said, when I first applied for it, I went in there knowing that I probably wouldn't get it, but I just thought I'd try for it anyway. And it was an experience itself, and if I'd got it, it would have been a better story. But
I dare say you wouldn't have been able to tell anything then.
Yeah. Well, if I'd got it, I'd be over there now, and I'd...
Was there like a sense of relief from... Well, were you married with your kids at the time? Yeah. Was there a sense of relief from them? Like, we don't have to go to Japan?
Well, my son would have loved to have gone over there. He was ready to move.
Yeah.
My daughter doesn't really matter to her, because she was only 5 at the time.
Young enough.
So,
yeah.
The wife was a bit more hesitant, because...
Bit of a change.
New country, new language, meeting new friends with language barriers.
Yeah.
But she, if I'd got the job, she would have done it.
Yeah.
So it's just one of those things in life.
Oh, I think I asked all the questions for that.
Cool.
At least the ones I'll get away with.
Yeah.
And is there anything else you want to add for that I haven't asked and you can speak about? Or
no, I think I've pretty well covered most of it. Can't really talk about much of what I did for the interviews and tests and stuff, but
just like
I'm sure you can imagine what I would have had to have done and shown, and
do like 10 hula hoops, do some sprints, just really
sure. Something like that.
Miyamoto sat down and said, alright, you got to beat Mario World in an hour. You should know the shortcuts, you should know the glitches.
Sure.
Boom. So we'll move on to what you're doing now, pretty
Yep.
much.
Um,
So you've almost finished your training.
Yep.
You're doing your sort of own development.
Yeah, well, as I said, I finish up my study next month, or at least that's my hope. Otherwise, I'll end up having to do another module or whatever. But yeah, I've still got the Angry Dwarf Studio there, looking at actually registering the business name so we can actually start doing things more as an actual business. To actually actively develop on a full-time basis, I do need funding, which I don't have, so a lot of what I do is off my own back.
Yeah, which can make it hard too.
It's the challenge of things. Having been a student for the last 2 years, I'm having some interesting conversations with Centrelink at the moment.
You're right, yeah.
But that's just a fact of life. So yeah, I'll probably end up going back and doing some freelance work as well, just to get me by so I can get that funding, and unless I can magically pull something out my backside. The eventual plan is to get something, a proof of concept up and running, and maybe hitting Kickstarter or something like that, just to get those funds to actively develop. We'll see what happens in time.
Yeah. So what is the name of the game you're making at the moment? Sort of what's it about? What's the genre?
The one that I'm working on currently, it doesn't have an actual name yet, but I've given it the code name Jumping Jones.
Yep.
It's a platformer. The name sort of came about by combining Jumpman, which was Mario's original name, and Indiana Jones.
Oh yeah,
because the character Jumping Jones is sort of like an Indiana Jones type character. The idea behind us developing this game was sort of like, not sure if you can remember it or not, or if you've even seen it, the old Pitfall games. It's like basically, let's make them, but make them good and make them modern.
Yeah.
But yeah, we obviously can't use the Pitfall name, and we can't use a lot of things that were in those games. So we're developing, but it's like that. But yeah. So basically, it's a platformer. We're kind of developing two versions concurrently. It's like the Angry Dwarf Studio itself is going to be doing a 2D side-scrolling platformer, sort of in, I guess you could say it's sort of in a similar vein to the old Donkey Kong Country games, where you do the platforming, you collect the things, progress, etc. I'm also personally setting up a 3D prototype for more of a 3D collectathon style game, like the old Banjo-Kazooie, Mario 64 type games.
Yeah, sort of. There's been like a renaissance of those games recently too.
Yeah,
Ukulele and Hat in Time, and
they've had a few hit and miss.
yeah. Some
Like,
people.
Ukulele was good. I found it to be well, at least the levels themselves to be quite big for what they needed to be. But
yeah, I kickstarted the game. Got my code. I haven't actually touched it because it came out in, was it April?
Yep.
And the Switch came out March. I was still deep in Breath of the Wild.
Yep.
So
yeah, I didn't end up getting it for the Switch. I ended up getting it on the PS4. And then later on the PS. On the PC. Sorry.
I could only get it on the PlayStation because at the time they only had codes for the PlayStation version.
Yeah, well, the Switch version only came out late last year. Wasn't it?
Yeah, it wasn't long ago.
Yeah.
Especially in comparison to the other two.
I was like, yeah, bugger it, I'll just get it on the PS4.
Yeah.
I thought it was a good game overall. Some things could have been better.
Didn't live up to hype compared to, Banjo-Kazooie. Like the creators of Banjo-Kazooie are back. They're making a similar game with lovable characters and that. And
if it was Banjo-Kazooie, it would have been better, but for obvious legal reasons, they couldn't use those characters.
It's one of the most successful Kickstarters. They made plenty of money, but you can see that they still needed more money to make it. Yeah. I've only seen this sort of on YouTube and sort of impressions, but there was the casino level, which was like really bland and stuff. What did you think of that one?
Yeah, I didn't really enjoy it that much.
Yeah. I was just watching it on YouTube. I'm like, it looks a bit meh.
But it's one of those levels that you just power through just because it exists, and then just forget about it afterwards. Yeah. But most games have got that level.
Just to sort of finish off the show, we've just got a couple of just general questions for you. What's one of the series you've put the most time into?
As in gameplay wise?
Yes, gameplay wise.
Probably Legend of Zelda.
Legend of Zelda.
Followed by Mario.
Yep.
Yeah, those are probably my main two staples. I put a lot of time and effort into these aren't Nintendo specifics, but the Final Fantasy series, especially the older ones, kind of stopped with them after 12.
when it went a bit away from its turn-based, and
it's like I like 12, but moving on beyond 12 just didn't do anything for me.
Yeah. Have you played every Legend of Zelda game? Have you
Yes,
you have?
Well, with the exception of the CDI games.
Oh, well, you don't play those. Yeah.
They don't exist.
Yeah. It's pretty hard to get a Philips CDI, or it's pretty hard to emulate too, that console. Bryce, I remember Bryce, for some reason he spent a night getting it to work on his computer.
Yep.
I'm like, why?
Why? Just to say that you could.
Yeah, I think that's why.
Yeah.
Because I'm ashamed to say this, but I only finished Ocarina of Time last week.
Okay.
Because I got it on the 3DS version.
Yep.
And I got stuck in the water temple, put it down, come back to it. I got no idea where I am.
Yep.
And I just never touched it since then. And Ocarina of Time is one of those games you always hear about. I know what the last fight is. Yep. You sort of know it, so you don't go back to it to finish it.
Yep.
But it's always in the back of my mind, how am I running a Nintendo podcast and I haven't finished Ocarina of Time? It's embarrassing. So I just went back and I had to use a guide to I retraced my steps. There's that one bloody key I didn't find. All right, move on with the rest. Yeah.
When did the original Ocarina of Time come out? That was 98, wasn't it?
Yeah, 98,
so
yeah.
I finished it when I was 10. I didn't have so much trouble with the water temple, but I have read a lot that a lot of people have had trouble with the water temple. It's one of those things. I guess...
Well, it's not too hard. It's just you get the keys, raise and lower the water.
The water levels and...
But I missed one key and...
You got to figure out where it is.
I'm like, do I have to put the water all the way down again to find it? And the one I found, it was the one I didn't find. It was I unlocked a hole in the ceiling. I had to swim up through that, then go through this labyrinth, and got there. I'm like, all right. No wonder I didn't find this one.
Yep.
Especially since it sets you up as well to progress. Oh, there's a locked door.
Yep.
Oh god. And you've got to go all the way back. Yeah. Didn't enjoy the water temple, but the other ones were fun. I enjoyed the Spirit Temple?
Yep.
Didn't like the Shadow Temple because I got to a point where I ran out of magic.
Yep.
I'm like, all right, I'll go back and get some magic.
Yep.
There's no magic in the whole bloody temple. So I have to go right out, go to Hyrule Field, slash some grass, fill it up, bottles. Go back in. I'm like, all right. Yeah. What else we got?
What else have you got?
Yeah, let's just talk about Zelda.
Okay,
yeah,
fine with me.
So what is your favorite Zelda game?
I don't think I can really pick one.
All right, we'll pick a few.
Pick a few. All right. I'll say Ocarina of Time for nostalgic purposes, but in the end, I actually found that Twilight Princess was a little bit better than Ocarina of Time. It just improved on a lot of the elements from within that game.
I agree on that.
So I'd say Twilight Princess over Ocarina of Time. Some people may stab me over saying this.
Yeah, some would
some would,
because not Ocarina of Time. Twilight Princess was my introduction to Zelda.
Yep.
When I got my Wii, got that straight away.
Yeah.
And I absolutely loved it. It was probably my first console game I actually owned and played through myself.
Yep.
Apart from whatever I had on Mum's computer.
Yep.
And I absolutely fell in love with it. And obviously, I only finished Ocarina of Time not long ago. So I don't have nostalgia for Ocarina of Time, but I do have for Twilight Princess, which is kind of weird for a lot of people growing up through the generations.
Well, that's just the thing. Younger people will find the slightly newer games more nostalgic because that's what they were brought up with.
Yeah.
It's like my favorite Zelda game would probably have to be A Link to the Past, which is on the Super Nintendo. Which I'm not sure if you played that one or not at your age. But I'm sure you probably have.
Yeah, I've gone back and played it. Yeah.
That one was probably my favorite one. It's the one that had the most impact on me.
I absolutely love the 2D Zeldas. I find them, especially maybe not Breath of the Wild, but I feel like the exploration and the sense of discovery is a lot greater in those games. Yeah.
I will say that I really liked Breath of the Wild. There is some things that I thought they could have done better, but maybe that's what they'll do with the next one.
Yeah, with Breath of the Wild. Thinking back on it, I absolutely loved discovering stuff, going around the overworld. But I did miss the dungeons, and the beasts didn't really satisfy me as far as the puzzle solving goes. And it's it's kind of a catch-22. You can have sort of non-linear, but then they can't plan on what you're doing.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I don't know how they fix that. Then Nintendo, I guess they'll figure it out.
They'll figure it out.
Yeah,
they always do.
Like I would love like a Breath of the Wild map, but maybe 15 dungeons hidden in there. Then like smaller ones here and there, like Shine esque type of thing. Yeah. And I also didn't like how all the aesthetic for every single shrine was exactly the same. None stood out.
Yeah.
Whereas it would have been cool to go into one and it's like a water level or lava or forest or whatever.
Yeah.
But
well, that's probably the main thing that I missed from Breath of the Wild as well, would be the dungeons. It's like, even if they just did the traditional 8 or whatever. Hi.
You're parked behind me.
Okay.
Sorry, I was just looking for your keys.
Might be in my pocket somewhere. Or
back your car.
It's a Zelda dungeon. You got to find the key.
You can edit that. See you later.
Where was I? Yeah, the dungeons. As I said, even if it was just the traditional 8 or 10 or whatever, would have been fun. Not that the divine beasts were bad, but they didn't quite hit the same. And I agree on the shrines as well. They all just
blended in together. Yeah,
looked the same in the end. To an extent, the divine beasts did the same thing. So.
Yeah. Well, what do you think they could do for the next one? Sort of try and do some of those things, or because Zelda really, I'm happy Breath of the Wild happened because Zelda needed a shake up real bad. It was just following Ocarina of Time, but it was becoming more linear and linear as it went on. Yeah. So from like Twilight Princess was more linear than Ocarina of Time, but then Skald Sword took it to a whole new level where it's just like
travel down this corridor.
They do exactly what we tell you.
Yeah.
And just go down the path. And redo the same things again and again and again. You got Zelda, you got Trial, you got Dungeon, you got Trial.
Yeah.
It got a bit ridiculous. So, like a lot of fans like myself said, no, this is getting a bit ridiculous. And they opened it up so much where a lot of people were like, all right, this isn't really Zelda anymore.
I still felt the whole Zelda feeling playing Breath of the Wild, but
I did too. Yeah.
I guess I could say similar for Skyward Sword. Obviously not quite the same, but for me at the time, Zelda was Zelda. A new Zelda game's great, but they could do things better. I really liked A Link Between Worlds that they released on the 3DS.
Oh my god, it was so good, wasn't it? It was so good.
They experimented with being open-ended there as well, with the whole items in the shop and renting and stuff.
I love that, like... If you're bored one night, just go around grinding rupees and you just go and buy everything. Yeah.
The dungeons suffered a little bit because they couldn't build one specifically around certain items because they weren't sure if a player would have those items. But
they just knew you had one item and they have like the picture on top of the dungeon when you go in and just use that one item.
Yeah. The ones that you need to open up the dungeon are the ones that you're most likely going to have in the dungeon. In the end, it was still fun.
What do you think about the ending without spoiling it? Did that catch you off guard, the ending?
Yeah, a little.
Because I was just like, huh. It's kind of obvious, but I was like, wow.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, just a bit. Don't know what to say about that.
Yeah, actually, going back to Twilight Princess, like the dungeons and that, there's some of the best in the series in Twilight Princess. Amazing. Like thinking back to them, I really want to go back and play them. I don't want to play through the whole game though.
Yep.
I just want to play like a certain dungeon. I really wish they did that in the HD version where you could just pick a dungeon and play it. Because like the way they use the items, like stuff like the spinner, which is only really used in the one dungeon and a little bit in the overworld. But that was so much fun in that dungeon, jumping from wall to wall and going up the walls. And the boss battles in that game are absolutely phenomenal. Like thinking back to them. Was it in the sky? Like, I forgot the name of the bosses now, but like you're using your double claw shot to lock onto the dragon and go on its back and stab it in the head and underwater, and it's so good. Absolutely love it.
Yep. I really liked the first dungeon, the forest dungeon with the I can't remember his name now, the monkey boss thing.
Yeah. Where you use the boomerang to like throw it and knock the bomb into the...
It kind of reminded me of the first level of Banjo-Kazooie with the monkey in the tree that throws the oranges at you.
No, I haven't actually played much Banjo-Kazooie. Well, so I can't... I'm sure listeners will be like, yes.
It kind of brought back memories of that in a sense, but so I quite enjoyed that one. I think the monkey boss wasn't actually the boss of that dungeon, though, was it? It might have been. Yeah, I can't remember.
Like the monkey, what do you do? Like you hit him to get the bomb, and you throw it at the boss, like the big plant thing.
Yeah. I think the monkey guy was a mini boss.
Yeah, that's just the thing with that game. Like getting to that point, it's like a bit slow, just going through the intro, and that's where that game gets the most flack. But like playing it for the first time, you're not really thinking about it. You just
playing it for the first time. You don't realize that you haven't actually done a dungeon until you're like 4-6 hours in, or whatever it was. I can't even remember how long it took to get to the first dungeon. Now it was a while. Yeah.
The second time you play through it and you get your tunic, like at the lake, you're like, oh, this is where the game starts. This would be nice. The second playthrough, it'd be nice to have a master mode where it's just like you don't have to herd goats. Yeah, it's fine the first time, but we know you want to go to the dungeons again.
Yep.
All right. I think we'll end the show here.
Cool.
Yeah. Thank you very much for joining me today, Leon.
All right. Thanks for inviting me.
No worries. You're more than welcome to come on the show again if you just want to talk, basic Nintendo again and
whatever. You know how to contact me.
Facebook. Hello.
Hi.
Everyone, thank you very much for listening to the episode 81 of The House of Mario. You can find us on Twitter at The House of Mario. You can find me on Twitter at iDruby. And if you enjoyed the show, leave us a subscribe on SoundCloud, iTunes, or your podcast service of choice. If you want to talk to us, join our Discord community. It's links in the show notes. And we are a part of the 8-Bit Collective, 10 podcasts and 22 podcast creators putting audio content in your ear holes. Check us all out at 8bit.net and 8bit.net/The House of Mario. Leon, do you have any plugs you would like to leave the listeners to go and check out? Check out your game, check out your Facebook page, etc.
As I said earlier, our Facebook page is pretty outdated, but if you just go look at Angry Dwarf Studio on Facebook, I'm sure you'll see something you might like.
Do you have Twitter or a website or anything like that?
We don't have a website up and running yet. We're looking at doing that this year when we set up as a business. So
yep. All right. When that happens, I'll add it to the show notes of this episode.
I may come back on and just
yeah. Give us a spiel when your game's closer to coming out.
Yep.
So the game you're developing at the moment, it's PC, mobile, and Mac. Is that?
They're the main platforms that we're aiming for at the moment, just because they're easier to develop.
They're the developer-friendly platforms.
Yeah. In the end, I'd like to develop for console, but see what time does.
Yeah, that's sort of like I guess the dream is to get it on like the big 3. Yeah.
Not even if it's just the Nintendo console, I don't care.
Indie, like the type of game you're describing, that would do perfect on Switch. Like you're hearing a lot of developers saying, that's selling twice as much on Switch because people are just more interested in that type of game on Nintendo.
A lot of our design philosophies kind of align with Nintendo's as well. So
yeah,
make fun games, not complex. Out there games.
And Nintendo Jukebox this week is Corneria by QMU Music on SoundCloud. So enjoy that. Check them out in the description below. And thank you very much, Leon. Thank you.
Cheers.
Andros has again invaded the Lilat system. General Pepper has turned to a new StarFox team, headed by Fox McCloud, to save Corneria and free the Lilat system once again.